we will start with introductions, and I'm happy to go first. So my name's Hannah. I work on the University Partnerships team here at Handshake. Thank you everyone for taking time out of your day to join us. So my role is to support our growth of the UK university partnerships that we have, but also empower career service teams like yourselves joining today. And we're going to be discussing embedding careers into the curriculum and managing placements. I'll hand over to my lovely colleague, Emily, who'll introduce herself too.
Thanks, Hannah. I'm Emily. I might have met a couple of you on the call, and I do apologise for this very grand echoey room that I am in. I'm a relationship manager at Handshake, so I work with our implementing universities, getting started on Handshake, all of the training and the implementation, but I also work with our universities that are up and running and trying to find new ways of doing things, exploring different ideas. And I do have a fun fact about Hannah and I that I'm going to share actually before we get started. So we're talking about placements and awards and various other exciting things today, and both Hannah and myself did a placement year as part of our course. I did mine in a careers service at the University of York. Hannah, whereabouts did you do yours?
That's a good point. University of Greenwich, and I believe some of my old colleagues are on the call, so hello to you all. Yeah, I'm in London, and Emily, you are too at the moment, but feel free to pop in the chat, guys, where you're joining us today from. I feel like it's all over the UK when I looked at the sign up list. I do want to acknowledge that we asked for 45 minutes of your time, but should only have the floor for about 30 minutes. And you can expect to answer questions in the chat box. If you have any, please type them away. We'll try to address them along the way, but if we miss any, we'll leave time at the end for the Q&A. But we also do have a mix of institutions joining us today. So we've got some of Emily's partner institutions that she works with, and I know then we've got some other partners and non-partners. So it's a real mix, but we will start with a quick overview of Handshake for those who are joining and maybe don't know who we are and what we do. So I'll kick off with that. And I can see we've had a few more people joining. So hello, everyone. I'm Hannah, that's Emily. Latecomers, that's all right. We're here for it. We're doing a quick overview of Handshake and starting with that for employers, the predominant way of finding early talent is incredibly time consuming. But recruiting online is also hard because each institution has its own system. So employers have to log into different portals, posting the same jobs again and again. And where Handshake's model comes in is trying to break down these barriers for employers to access your students. It's absolutely free for employers to join Handshake today and post jobs, meaning that they can effectively scale and build relationships with your teams. And then this also lowers the administrative time for the careers service, as employers actually take ownership of posting opportunities and they have their own employer profiles. So it's not a duplicated effort. My next slide here is just highlighting that, Handshake has enterprises of all different shapes and sizes. And we're demonstrating how companies can use technology to engage with early talent. So even before the pandemic, SMEs did struggle to recruit and they were losing out to big tech companies, we know. So Handshake's trying to help companies of all different shapes of sizes bridge that gap to access early talent. And I did want to call out, because I know our last webinar last week was all about student engagement, and it's worth highlighting that we do have a mobile app. And Emily, I'm sure you can confirm this with me, but I hear that 50% of Handshake logins are via a mobile phone, which is crazy. I mean, I have a little brother who's always on his phone, but he's able to engage with the career service through an app, through the Handshake app. So it's making sure that students have a sociable way and that consumer grade experience that they're familiar with, like Instagram. And Emily, I can see the chat is blowing up, but feel free to jump in there. I can't see it right now. Screen sharing the joys. But today, Handshake blends the best aspects of a career management system, meets early talent network and virtual engagement platform all in one place. So this slide highlights our 21 UK partner institutions today, but also the scale and power of the Handshake network. There's about 10,000 UK employers on the platform today. So by the time that we finish this webinar, we hope that you'll feel more confident in knowing about Handshake, but we will be showing two different sides of the platform today between Emily and I. For clarity, Handshake has 3 different user types. We're going to mostly show the student experience and the career service side of the platform in this webinar. And like I said, we want to help you feel confident in understanding how Handshake defines embedding careers into curriculum. This is something that we're really passionate about, and we have many exciting partner stories and learnings to share today, but our goal is to help provide workflow tools to allow teams to incorporate careers and employability skills at the heart of academic learning. So I'm going to dig into that a bit more now. First of all, how do we define that? And Handshake provides the workflow tools and the data about student activity and student engagement. And having spoken to our team has spoken to about 130 careers teams this year, it's something that's very topical. But I will say that everyone has a different definition of what embedding into curriculum looks like. There are shared themes here, but there's not a one-size-fits-all model, unfortunately. It does depend on staffing, resourcing, even employability strategies. But I'm here to talk about Handshake's own vision and how employability can be embedded with the support of technology and how some of our partners do that. But over the last 5 years, we have added tons of staff because there are places we see ourselves providing more tools to manage things like placements that are credit bearing, but also in other realms, some areas are difficult to measure. And we hope to help our partners leverage our reporting capabilities in a scalable way to understand things like career readiness and personal development, through looking at students' attendance, messaging on the platform, even engagement with alumni, tracking job applications, seeing graduate outcomes, all of those tools to help continue the conversation within your institutions. And we do have a series of webinars, so make sure you stay tuned to continue that conversation with us. I forgot to ask the question on the last slide, I'm pretty sure, so I will jump back. But Handshake's question is, how can we enable easy, scalable workflows to support these efforts? And how can we provide great data to tell the broader story? And that leads on to my next slide, which was from the back of our Careers 2032 research. We found that, well, a challenge was born across careers services that over the next decade, they need to demonstrate their impact and value within the wider university or college. And from there, we asked ourselves, how do we maximize the amount of students that are taking advantage of your resources and engaging with your service? So how can we help you track that? And that's what Handshake's really focusing in on at the moment, to ensure that career services can demonstrate that wider impact. And the answer, I suppose, is we do maximize these tools. We have pivoted during the pandemic, and Emily knows the details of it, but Journeys is something that we built out. Our engineering teams built out, I don't know, maybe in the last year, isn't it? To make sure that the careers journey of a student can be tracked. And if there's awards tools, I'll let Emily talk about it more in a minute. But Either way, Handshake is an end-to-end solution that that supports students, supports career services. We are going to be doing a high-level overview today of journeys and experiential learning, but I did want to speak to kind of the focus of these two comprehensive tools and why we've built them. But I will pass over to my lovely colleague Emily now and stop screen sharing and leave it to her.
Fabulous. Thank you, Hannah. So as Hannah mentioned, experiential learning, embedding careers in the curriculum, that module approach to employability is something that, as you all know, it's growing in the space, which is wonderful. We're approaching things in new and dynamic ways, and that presents a brilliant challenge, an opportunity for us to explore how can a technology provider attain those outcomes that you're wanting to attain as well. So I'll be talking about the Journeys tool today. So a little bit of background to the Journeys tool is that we developed it as a UK exclusive tool. So our lovely US counterparts across the pond do not have access to this tool currently. And that's because, you know, the UK, Europe are really leading the way when it comes to placements, modules, awards. It's not something that they see very often in the States. And actually, since launching Journeys, it's something that has opened up so many conversations about approaching higher education in this new way, or new to them. It's pretty well known to us by this point. So the Journeys tool at its core is a way of being able to guide students, alumni from A to B, essentially through a set of different goals. Now, as Hannah mentioned in her definition, experiential learning or module-based learning, it differs, the definition, depending on your institution, your size, your resource, number of team members you've got, the length of the program that you'll be working with. So what I really enjoy about Journeys is that you can really approach it in different ways. You can approach it from the traditional award stance, in that students do a set of goals, they do reflection, this unlocks another part of the journey, and they work towards an award at the end. That's absolutely fine. We've got partners who do a fantastic job of that. And then you can also approach it in a slightly different way, which is more around using the tool as a way of being able to do guidance at scale without having to always have that face-to-face interaction with students. So I'm just going to get my screen sharing up here. And Hannah, can you give me a thumbs up? Can you see it? Fabulous. So this page will probably be familiar to quite a lot of people on the call, but if not, that's okay. So I'm using my Handshake Demo account to show you what the experience is like. Just a quick note, the demo account is built on the US architecture, which means that there might be a few HE terms in there that are slightly different to the ones that we use, because we know that in the world of HE, there are many different ways of referring to different things. But needn't worry, all of the functionality that is here is what is in the live UK version. I just didn't want to show you any student data that I shouldn't show you. So this is the homepage for anyone who hasn't looked at it before, and this is from the student side of the platform. And as you can see, there's various calls to actions here. And the cool thing about this page is that it's all personalized. So we have a personalization algorithm that sits underneath Handshake. It takes into account the interests that students share during onboarding, their activity on the platform, their year group, that kind of thing. So mine does not look very exciting because I'm not a real student using it every single day. So there will be slightly differences here. But to navigate over to the Journeys tool, what we're going to do here is click on our career service. So I'm a student studying at the University of Knowledge, very creative name I came up with that. And to find the Journeys tool, we're going to go to this tile here called Career Journey, and we're going to click on it. Now, what you can see on this page is 3 different statuses when it comes to Journeys. You can see which ones are available, which ones are in progress, and which ones have completed. So for Journeys that a student has completed, they can click into these and they can still see the goals that they completed. They can click the URLs here if they're still live on the website. And what the reason for that was intentional. We didn't want students to go on a complex award journey or even just a simple step-by-step guide and then lose that information, because we know it's very valuable for students to just go back and recheck what they did in first year, second year, third year, etc. So the cool thing about the completed goals, it's there for them. They can see exactly the kind of steps that they went through, and as long as your links that you put in are live and the internet does not break, students will be able to come back and link to any external resources that you've got there. For journeys that are in progress, students can see this completion status here, and they're able to kind of keep coming back to this and see what the next stages are. So if I just click into this journey here, you can see that I've completed these three different steps here, but I need to do this one. So I'm going to do a nice little segue into both placements and journeys, because I like to give myself a challenge and combine two tools in one. So when I was sitting and thinking about this webinar, I was thinking what would be useful. And I remember when I go back to doing my placement year, which must have been, how many years ago? 3, 4, maybe 5, potentially, placement year. And I was part of the first cohort to do that placement year scheme. And it was a wonderful experience. And we really were guinea pigs in a way. We were working out what's the best way to then be able to do this on a wider scale and more students to get involved. And I thought, if we built a placement year journey, that's a really good way of being able to give students that information and let them explore what a placement year or an internship or whatever that kind of experiential learning is, allow them to explore that experience first and then be able to go and progress with the process here. So this journey is really designed before students even get to the point of applying for a placement year. It's that kind of information and that exploration piece. So what I've done here, I've built out a basic journey, really, but what will be of most interest, really, is the kind of goals that you're able to get. And I'm showing you this from the student side rather than the career side, just because the student side looks a little bit nicer, really, and I like it. So when you think about our first goal here, I've linked career readiness in a survey. So for goals, let me just restart. For goals, you're able to put in the name, the description, you're able to link out to any information that you need, you're able to add labels. For those that might be familiar with tags or label architecture in systems, you're able to incorporate that into journeys as well. And then you're able to preview that and then publish it, essentially, and select which student you like. So for this goal here around career thinking, I have linked out to a survey that I built in Handshake. I've just taken the URL, a bit like this URL up here. Each survey has a unique ID associated in the URL, so you can just take that survey and paste it wherever you need it in an email. I put it in this goal here so that when I click on this link, I'm not going to do it because I've actually linked it to the BBC website and we can avoid the news today. But you will click on this link here and then the student, it will open up the survey and then they'll be able to complete that and say, yep, I'm going to tick this off and say, I've done that. So this is a student self-completed goal. So it's requiring the student to do that validation on your behalf to say, yep, I've read that. So for example, if you're doing another kind of placement year journey, you might have a health and safety document or fire safety training video that you require students to watch. It might be difficult to actually validate whether they've read that PDF or that document that you've got stored in your OneDrive. So by being able to get students to say, yep, I've done this, I'm confident, then that allows you to kind of fill in that gaps when it comes to data. But there are many other goals that you can do as well. So if we click on this one here, rather than, this is using the same type of architecture, so the student completed goal, but it's using it for a different purpose. So rather than linking to a survey all around career readiness, I'm instead linking just a resource, a video, where students can watch that. So you can use these self-completed goals for any purpose, really. Feel free to throw some ideas in the chat if you've got any for ones or ideas or tasks that you get students to go and tick off and confirm that they've done themselves. Would love to know your ideas. So, student completed goal. This one's a slightly different one. You will notice this is a tell us where you're currently on your career thinking goal, so career readiness, but it's got a slightly different call to action here. Now, what this is doing is a similar thing. It's linking to a survey for students to fill in, but instead of the student having to come back and validate it and say, yep, I've done that, we're using something called a label here. So for surveys, you're able to attach a survey completion label, like a tag, to say anyone who completes this survey gets this label at the end to say, yep, they've done that. So in order for this goal to be ticked off, the student can't just tick it and go, yeah, I did it, and actually they didn't. Instead, we're using this label architecture as an extra layer of validation and safety here, which means that when you direct students through that link, they complete it in Handshake, the label will be applied, and then the goal will be updated to say, yep, they've got this label, therefore we can tick that off. Does that make sense? Anna, give me a nod if I'm making sense. Fabulous. A very enthusiastic nod. I love it. So we've talked around student completed goal, and this is a label goal here. If we open up this one here, so we've got their career readiness thinking, we've got them to read a resource about placement years and what it's all about, and next we're going to do a placement year launch and networking event. So to get students in a room together, we can tell them about placement years, and we're also going to bring some past alumni or employers or other students that have done placement years. We're going to get them to be talking and inspired, and it's going to be a wonderful time. So in Handshake, we've got the ability to have event goals. So for this one here, I've built the event in Handshake, my placement year launch and networking event. And what I've done is make it an event goal where students will click on this link here. I'll open it in a new tab, so not to, oh, that's gonna not like that. Let me just click on it. No worries there. There we go. So, and it will load up the event page here. I won't go in details of the event page, but this one, when you use the event goal here, you can just direct to a whole event page. So if you're doing a journey where it's not, you don't really need to be really specific about attend an event, it can be anything. You might have a whole suite of events that students can attend, and you don't want to direct them to kind of one in particular and limit their choice in that way. You can use this event goal here. But if you do have a specific event in mind that's just for this journey, not to worry about that. Again, you can set up an event to be invite only, or it can be for students that have a certain label. So for example, they might come to this networking event. You might then get the attendees of that and wrap a nice label around it to say, yep, they attended that. And what we're going to do is then create another event for those students, but only the ones that attended the ones before. So you use the same label to qualify that event, and it will then be able to notice the students got that label, and again, it can tick it off. So this one here, this label completion goal, is the exact same kind of functionality in the back end of this one here, but we're using it for two different things, for surveys and events, and you can use it for all sorts of other things as well. We do have some kind of built out goals in Handshake as well to save you time building them. So one of those is the Handshake profile basics. So in Handshake, for those that aren't familiar, for those that are, you can tell us what you think about this, but Handshake has the ability for students to create profiles, and that's their kind of presence. So they can share a bio about what they're wanting to achieve, or a little bit about them. They can put links in that bio. They'll be live, so if they've got portfolios, they can link out to those. They can add their work experience, skills, projects they've worked on, demographic information that's valuable, etc., etc. And kind of, I'm taking this in all kinds of directions, but basically those students that do complete their profile, what that does is give you a lot of data about what that student is interested in, where they're at. It saves you having to scour LinkedIn, other sources to find what those students are doing, because they're adding that opportunity. But it also means that employers are more easily able to find those students that they're interested in. They're able to see, okay, these kind of students have shared this kind of opportunity. They're the ones that we're wanting to do. So by completing your Handshake profile, you really do drive the engagement, and it allows you to start kind of having opportunities come more easily to you, which obviously for students who are wanting to do a placement year or an internship, they'll need to secure that role at some point. So this is a good way of giving them a really easy step to make that whole process of applying for a placement a little bit easier. We also have an appointment functionality in Handshake more broadly, and you're able to add appointment-specific goals. So, for example, if the student, they've told you your career readiness, they've come to the launch event, they've told you how the event was, they really enjoyed it, they've uploaded lots of information about them on their profile, they're like raring to go, they want to go for a placement year. You can then set up appointments that you might just do specifically for those students that are interested in placement years. I know some services will have a dedicated person who's all about placements and internships. If not, you can still, if you offer that as part of your service, then feel free to show that for students. But what you can do here is guide students to book an appointment as part of this pre-placement journey and exploring what placement years are all about. So they might meet with an advisor, have a chat about what they're wanting to achieve out of a placement year, and then start that process of what it's like to then source the opportunity or do your health and safety, find your accommodation, all of those other things that are associated. You can very easily link this as part of this process here. And then at the end, because I love to bookend it with career readiness, you could then do a similar goal as what you did at the top, all around career readiness, a link into a survey, get their career readiness. You can do some analysis on your side, downloading the data, seeing whether there's been any changes in career readiness after they've gone through this pre-placement journey, and use that data as you like. So this is a little bit about what the Journeys tool is. Essentially, to go back to the beginning, it's a way of guiding students from A to B. So for award programs, I'm sure you can imagine here how you could have various different steps. If you need to attend this specific training, you need to volunteer here, or you need to submit this reflection from a survey, etc., etc. And you can very easily build that out. But likewise, you can use it for those more kind of exploration sessions or ways of being able to guide students through a process. So a pre-placement journey or a journey that's all around getting ready for graduation. We've got numbers of partners who are using that for that functionality there. But I'm going to shush now because I've spoken a lot about journeys. I hope you can tell that I get very excited about this functionality. And I'm going to pass back over to Hannah to talk about experiences. So our lovely demo student here has gone and bagged themselves an experience. They're ready to start their placement year. So take it away, Hannah.
Thank you very much, Emily. And I will let you grab, was it Richard's question in the chat whilst I'm doing a whirlwind tour of experiences with the time we have. So I'm jumping back to screen sharing here, but experiences are a way for you to track students going on placement and internships and apprenticeships, you name it. But this tool can also be tracked as we know that some placements are credit bearing. Mine was, they require approval from different departments, contacts, academics. I know the drill. But I'm going to give a high level overview, starting with the student experience. And having worked in a careers service myself, I sincerely hope that nobody here is using spreadsheets for managing your students on work experience. I'll jump over to the actual demo platform that I have open for us today, starting with a similar account to Emily's, but it's very easy for students to tell you that they're going on placement or internship. Essentially, a student receives a job offer after completing the journey that Emily showed you, and they're ready to tell you that they're hoping to go on a 9-month placement. They navigate to the Career Center, and from here, they can easily see the Experiences tab. They can have a high-level overview themselves of all the great work experience that they've completed. There is no limit to this, but they can easily request as many as they like. So when a student requests a new experience, they can do so here. And for example, the experience types are connected to templates that have been customized by your career service. So again, we know that every career service is different, and there may be many different intricate templates and opportunities available, MBA programs, specific placement apprenticeships. So we'll click in on the placement year. And again, students can select a term. They'll only see terms allocated to that experience template. So this one can be autumn. I won't bore you with completing the whole form, but say that there are some standardized questions such as the relevant employer, job application. But all of this is made easier through Handshake's database, meaning that if the employer the student's going to work for is already got on Handshake, there's a bit of data integrity here, so that data will be pulled in from the employer's profile, making it easier for the student to fill out this form. They can even add the experience to the profile that Emily mentioned to showcase their work experience. And we know that experiences have customized lists of approvers. This experience, for example, has two. They are a placement officer, but also an employer supervisor. And we're just asking the student here to complete. I'll just type in my email for everyone to see. If you want to email me, feel free to, but you can see here again, the data integrity comes in. So if it's a member of staff in your team or it's an employer already on the platform, again, Handshake pulls that in. And there's some additional custom questions for the student that you can add. We know that there's some maybe specific requirements that need to be customized. You can do this through a survey. And that is all. But once the student has requested this experience, they will jump back and see the status of the internship by clicking in here. They can actually set learning objectives for themselves. They could also see some comments from your team saying, please upload your contract. And they can add these attachments here. That leaves a nice kind of transition over to the career service management perspective, which I will showcase here. So as an institution on Handshake, you have the ability to switch users. So again, pay attention here because we're switching over to the career service account, which looks hopefully entirely different, but it does have the same user-friendly tools on the left-hand side. And this is where you can manage your experiences. So you'll be spending most of your time as an approver here in the platform. And again, you can, if you are an approver, all these filters on the left-hand side can be filtered and you can save these by default. So if you're only approving a specific cohort of students, you don't see the rest. I'll just click in on a couple of them. You can see job type, internship, placement. From there, users can also navigate to the in progress tab to see the experiences that have already started to be approved. And we can click in here on this one, it's placement student. But from here, then the users can see a high level overview of the timeline of what that student's completed, any attachments, add any comments. You can also add some notes. So maybe it's a private note to yourself, maybe it's a shared note between you and a colleague, just about that experience. And career services can also see the job details of the experience here, as well as the learning objectives that the student has set and answers to the survey questions. From here, you're able to see the two approvers that we looked at. So we can see them here, but I'll also jump in and say that we know not, well, academics don't need access to Handshake to be able to approve a experience. If I copy this email here into a different tab, it'll view what this looks like if they received an email. So once the student submitted the experience, then the approver will receive an automated email, which I actually do have in the slide deck here to bring to life what that looks like. So they'll receive an email, and from there, they don't need a login to Handshake. they can see the details of the experience, the answers, and approve the experience without logging into Handshake at all. I will navigate back to the tab that I was on as well. Now that we've showcases that, you can see the ones that need review as well. So after 6 days, if you're, I mean, how much time do you guys spend chasing down academics or colleagues to maybe approve specific things? Handshake wants to help you automate all of that. So if we click here, you can email all the reviewers and tell them to get to it. You could email the students as well to let them know that they need to submit something or upload something. But essentially, those bulk actions are making your lives easier as well. And we know, we did speak earlier about reporting and the importance of that. Whilst you can gather evaluations from students on an experience through maybe a midterm survey, final evaluation, you want to be able to report back on all of that too. So I will call out Handshake's got a full suite of Handshake insights. Our analytics tool provides a way for you to explore, save and share data across your institution. And we want to be able to help teams tell the story of how many students are on placement, where they're going, what companies they're working for, time and time again. So there's 3 primary ways that we've built for you to easily get data out of the platform, and you don't need to be an expert to know how to use it. I'm not yet. There's saved reports here. We can see some saved reports for later. There's some pre-built dashboards that can help you automate the delivery, but track your student activity. And you can also nerd out and create your own. I'll jump back to the slides and say that we do know, again, it's not all the same for every institution, but what you've seen today, again, was a high-level overview. We do work with 1,400 universities and no process is the same. So you can choose the best elements of what you saw today and combine the placements tool, journeys tool to be highly configurable to your institution. And on that note, with the time we have, we're happy to stick around, by the way, but is there any questions? I know the chat's been going off, so happy to answer those. And we can also plug next week's webinars if you're still here. That's all we've got for you today, but in joining the discussion around Handshake, our awards, placements, tools, we really appreciate you signing in and hope you learned lots. And these are the 3 upcoming webinars.
Amazing, thanks, Hannah. Richard, if you're still on the call, I can answer a couple of your questions now. You will have to apologise, I'm very slow at typing, hence why I couldn't send you all of the answers in the chat. So I'll pick up a couple of these now for anyone who's wanting to know the answers. So Richard, you spoke around making changes to journeys once live. Can you also add resources, extra surveys, stages, etc., etc.? So to give a little background from the career side of Handshake when it comes to setting up a journey, we recommend that you do not make changes once a journey is live. And the reason for that is from a data point of view. So if, for example, you made a journey and it had X number of stages, maybe 5 stages, and you published it to students, they're getting on with that, and then actually you want to add an extra stage after 2, and then you want to add an extra stage at the end, and this, and this. What happens there from a data point of view is you basically split your data set in half. You've got this group of students who might have already got halfway through the journey or completed the journey, who did the old version. And then you've got this other group of students here who now need to pivot to do the other version there. And especially if you're making it quite complex with labels or other functionalities to deliver that. So as a way around this, and a way to kind of help understand this, there are a couple of things that you can do when you're setting up your journey. There is, we provide a what would you call it, like a draft of what the journey looks like, so you can see from a student point of view what this looks like. You can as well, if you wanted to, build a little test journey out that replicates what it is that you hope to do in real life. You can set up a linked student account to your Handshake account. So as Hannah showed, you can switch over to other sides of the platform. That isn't just something special that we get at Handshake, you can do that too. So what you could do, set up your journey, test it as you would want to do either with real students, or use those fake student accounts that you've got, go through that process, really like flesh it out, try everything, see what you think about it, take those learnings away and then do it for real. And then you're able to kind of do a pilot in a safe environment using your test student accounts there. And of course, off of the back of the journey, you will then be able to get data in terms of who completed it, who was progressing and then stopped, what kind of prompts helped to get students through that other stage there, especially if you are linking to events or appointments, you've then got that whole data set as well. So you're then able to do a little bit of a review really and see what kind of worked, were there certain goals after which there was a drop off, and be able to work that out for the next time you run that journey next year or next week or however often you will do that there. When it comes to adding additional resources, so as mentioned, Handshake, because it's web-based and we've got a mobile app as well, we recommend that any of the content that you're linking to is hosted via a URL, so on the Blackboard or BLE or Google Drive, OneDrive, the BBC website I used in my example. And what that means is that you just direct student to that link. If you use Google Analytics, if you set up Google Analytics links already as part of your institution, feel free to pop one of those in so you get data on that as well. And then you're able to then see the content that is on a kind of a dynamic website or wherever you've linked them to. And that means instead of kind of running the risk of uploading a Word document and it then kind of being this static thing that's actually attached to this journey and it's stuck there. If you've got content on a web page, if you ever upload, change the web page or do anything like that, it means that students can then just access that and their user experience won't be affected because it's on a website, if that makes sense. Let me just double check what else we're in here. So many great questions.
I'm doing my best to get through the chat. I'm answering Phoebe right now. But feel free to chime in there with that, with the second part of Phoebe's question, if you like.
Second part of Phoebe's question.
Pulling the CSV file, which you can do.
Yeah. Is there a way of adding supervisor details to the student experience and then the option of downloading the student approval CSV file, which pulls through the supervisor information? Supervisor would be a different person to the approver of the placement. Yes. So, as Hannah mentioned, there are lots of different ways of pulling data when it comes to various different parts in Handshake. You've got those quick downloads, those CSV files. If it's not on there already, you should be able to then either create a custom report, so that will just pull whatever fields it is that you need and you can schedule those, or there might be a dashboard that contains that information for you. Let me take this question away, Phoebe, because off the top of my head, I need to put my reporting hat on to be able to get you the answer to this, but I'll take it away there. Hannah, would you mind putting the partnership email in the chat for anyone who's got any questions that we don't get round to answering now? We'll also save the chat for everyone so that we can come back to these. And then when we do our follow-up email, what we'll do is a little like FAQ Q&A type thing. Fabulous. So our email address is the ukpartnerships@joinhandshake.com, email address there. So if you want to, as a safety net, put your question in an email to us, we'll get round to it.
There's two really easy chat about. Sorry to interrupt. Yep. There's two really easy ones in the Q&A, which I didn't, was looking at the chat. Q&A, right. Aslan, yes, Emily said there's a recording afterwards. We will make sure to send that out to share with colleagues and recap of what we talked about. I know we covered a lot. And Lucy, hello. I remember speaking with you a while back, but I mentioned employers uploading opportunities and going directly through Handshake. Does this work the other way around too? So if the employer is directly liaising with the university, can we upload the opportunity?
Yes, absolutely. So it's not the recommended route just because of the list involved if you had to add every opportunity. But if you've got those special relationships with certain employers or charities and SMEs, I know they can always need an extra pair of hands. And then yes, you can add that job on behalf of that employer there. Also, when you are adding jobs, or when employers are adding jobs, they've got the option of the ATS that's built into Handshake. So being able to kind of approve or hire students, decline them through Handshake, but they can also set an email address for those opportunities to be sent to. So in theory, you could set up that opportunity, put in the email address of the person you're liaising with, and what they'll do is those opportunities that as students apply, they get sent to that email address, if that makes sense. So there's a couple of ways of approaching that opportunity. Does that answer your question, Lucy? And yeah, Phoebe, I'll get back to you. Feel free to fire it to me.
Any questions, fire them in the chat. We're still sticking around. Otherwise, have a lovely rest of your Thursday and weekend when it comes.
Yes.
Thank you all for your time today. We'll see you next week, hopefully.
Yeah. Have a great day too, Lucy. Thank you. We'll send you the recording. It's definitely recording. I've double checked.
Mm-hmm. I'll close this out unless there's
scope. One more Q&A. Rebecca coming in with some great last minute questions. Is there scope for due diligence checks on employees within the system? Legitimacy of the company? Yes, absolutely. So this is something that is incredibly important to us at Handshake. It's something that we are continuing to work upon. So Rebecca, I'm just going to note down your name so that I can send you. We've got a product roadmap webinar. You might have joined us for it, but if not, we talk about the updates we're doing to security in that. But to summarize it, absolutely, yep. So when employers join Handshake, the system automatically does a lot of checks for you. So it'll check that their email address also matches with the website domain. It will check their activity and the information that they've provided. You'll be able to see whether they've been flagged by students or by you, and that all forms part of that data set. That's how it currently is, and it's only going to expand from there. So what we are doing is we're growing out those automatic checks. So it's not just when employers are starting on Handshake, but also it's ongoing as well. So what it'll do, it'll do very similar things to what you're doing in terms of like checking company house, checking the email address, checking if they've been flagged anywhere else, if there's any complaints, if they've been spamming jobs and messages and all those other things. I will